A woman's husband should be her number one fan. And that's why so many women are upset about Simone Biles. We know she deserves more. She's also young. She's got a lot of trauma. She was abused. She was in foster care. She was SA. And then she just has misogynoir in her daily life. So we know that she comes from so much trauma and is a very successful woman. And those two things oftentimes set women up to attract parasitic men who try to humble them, and men who are so insecure in themselves that they see these women's success as a threat to themselves rather than feeling lucky and feeling blessed to be a part of these women's lives. So thank you for bringing up Serena Williams. There's other examples too. But there's one particular point I really want to hit on. Other than your husband should be your number one fan, despite us being conditioned to be men's cheerleaders. I mean, look at sports. You know, like, we are set up to be like, football player, and then we just, yay, right? And a lot of these men just expect us to be a continuation of their childhood. Look at me, mommy. Oh, good job, Timmy. Like, that's not what we're here for. We are supposed to be each other's cheerleaders, right? But in most marriages, cishet marriages, men expect to be cheered, and yet they will never uplift their wives because they think they're the center. Now, as reluctant as I am to like hype up any man, because I'm always just waiting for them to disappoint me, I do want to use Serena Williams' marriage as an example because it's one of the few examples that there are of a man just giving his undying support. A man not the least bit emasculated by being married to a goat, right? Like, he's bragging about the fact that he's married to a goat. And that's the kind of man that women deserve. Men who are like, oh my God, you're amazing. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. I want everyone to know how amazing you are if they don't already know. And those are usually the kind of men who will not get lazy in a marriage, because we know that so many men see marriage as the finish line rather than the beginning of a partnership. They're just like, whatever, I did everything I could and to win over this woman. But like I've said in other videos, men are not like, they just think that we're never gonna leave them. So once they get the girl, they're like, all done, cool, smooth sailing from here, and get lazy. And then all the work and the relationship falls on her. But this man, every match, he's just like, he's not just showing up. He's just like, so there. And now that, you know, they have children, he's also doting over his children. This is the kind of thing I want to see more of. Like, seeing this man do this in front of the whole world really did help shift something for me. That if I don't have somebody doing this publicly for me regularly, and also in our home, not just publicly, that's the thing. Maybe he's doing this and maybe he's a jerk at home. We don't know. But a man this excited and also this proud. Every time I see a photo of him and Serena, he's just like, look at me. Look, I'm next to a queen, right? And, you know, because of patriarchy, women are not conditioned to believe that we're a queen, that we deserve the world, that we should be treated well, right? But men are, okay? So when a man acts like this, like he's so excited to be in a partnership with a woman, I am here for it. And when he's excited about his children and also uses his white privilege to fight back against systemic racism, and also like is working to try to help men get paid leave. Now, while you will never see me champion billionaire, so I'm a little reluctant to like be like, yay, Alexis, because I believe that being a billionaire by nature is exploitive and you should be giving away most of your money. And if you're not, then fork you. For the sake of comparison, what I hate seeing is Simone Biles' husband go on a podcast and literally say, I believe men are the prize. That statement alone makes me scared for her. That makes me think that this man has been listening to red pill stuff. And even if he hasn't, he believes that. He said it. And even when given the opportunity to tread lightly and walk back what he was starting to say, he didn't do it. And he hasn't done it in any of the interviews before. Like I said in the video that this is attached to, at every chance, I literally Googled, what's his butt? I don't even know his name. I love that I don't know his name. So I Googled Simone Biles' husband interviews, and I read numerous interviews over the last few years from this man, or a couple years, whatever. And it's like, that is the sticking point every time. Just in case you didn't know, he didn't know who she was when they started dating. He didn't know who this desperate woman who slid into his DMs and drove 45 minutes to meet him and seemed to have been pursuing him. You know, he even said that she won him over. It wasn't the opposite. She pursued him. He makes it a point to say that every time. He also claims that he just doesn't know anything about gymnastics. And of course he doesn't know her, although he was tweeting. I mean, this is what I love about Twitter, man. They will always find some tweet. He was talking about Gabby. I know that this was before Simone, but look at that. Not only is he talking about Gabby, he's also criticizing Gabby's teeth. Like, this reminds me of Travis, what is his butt? Taylor Swift's boyfriend, who also had a lot of things to say about women's bodies in tweets, but that's another video. You'll never convince me that football players are like feminists or like not whatever. Not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying that culture is one of the most misogynistic there is. And the domestic violence in that culture is so high, which is another reason why I'm concerned. Now, another funny thing about Serena and her meeting with Alexis is that she was annoyed by this guy. She was like, who are you? What are you doing at my table? Any woman who knows what it's like to be a woman or femme knows what it's like for some dude in an empty restaurant to plop up right next to you. It's annoying. I totally get why she was like, go away. She even tried to get rid of him by lying about seeing a rat. She also didn't know what Reddit was. She didn't even think Reddit was real. And I can actually relate to this because I never used Reddit until like the last several years because I honestly thought it was just for like inchmails. There was no app, so she thought he was lying. She was like, whatever, this dude is like, bleh. Now, Alexis thought that was her, but he wasn't sure. And he admits that he never watched tennis a day in his life. I actually don't care for tennis. The only time I watch tennis is Serena, Coco, and Naomi. That's pretty much it, because I think it's pretty boring, but I will watch those women any day. But guess what? When a man really loves you and he sees how amazing you are, that man's showing up at your matches. And that's what he does. He not only shows up, he's her number one fan, and he is, like you saw in the picture. So it is possible that Simone Biles' husband, which is what I'm always calling for the rest of his life now, did not know her. I would give that like a 0.0001% chance that that's true. But even if he didn't know her, didn't know gymnastics, didn't care about gymnastics, when you are married to the GOAT, most decorated gymnast ever, receive medals from the president and are the youngest one. I don't care whether you know that sport or not, you're going and you're the number one fan. So this is what I want to talk about right here though. Because I do understand why Simone, okay, look at this. He says that he didn't know who she was and that but she liked that about him. Mind you, this man has never said anything about how, in her interviews, how beautiful was, how impressed he was with anything about her profile. All he says is, oh, she's got 4 million followers. So I can actually relate to not wanting someone to know about you. Now, I do not in any means want to compare myself to Simone. I just want to add my own anecdote to make a point here. As somebody who wrote about my schmegs life for a living, I continue to. That's what I do. I talk about relationships, schmegs, and lots of my life. That's what I do for a living. When I was on Tinder, I did everything in my power for men to not find out my last name. And it wasn't because I was ashamed of any of the work that I've done. And it wasn't because I was afraid they would read my work. It's because, French people have like no social media presence. This is a big generalization, but they're more private people. And I almost never have met a French person who has an online presence the way most Americans, US Americans I know. And so that in of itself made it unfair. But the fact that I have all these stories about my schmegs life, about threesomes, about domestic violence, about all of these things that I've worked through, a lot of trauma that I've been through, some of the worst moments of my life. I wanted to be able to tell these things in an organic way and an equal way with my partner. I did not want him reading everything about my life and then I don't know anything about him. To me, this is about building a foundation of trust. And so actually, I didn't tell my husband my last name for maybe a couple months. I did not want him knowing more about me than I know about him. And as a survivor of domestic violence, that's a very smart strategy too. Given that I knew from experience that these men are like Sherlock Holmes and they find things about your story to then use against you. I never believed that my now husband would ever do that, but When you date enough men who are terrifying and almost get unalived by one, you assume all men are capable of unaliving you until they prove otherwise. So I say all this to say, I understand wanting someone to get to know you slowly and organically, especially if you have any public figure status. This man's lying.